ADHDers and allies. You're listening to the ADHD and Me podcast with me, ADHD Girl. And welcome to part 2 of the bigger discussion entitled You, Me and ADHD Relationships. In part 2, we're going to be talking about friendships. Because I don't know about you, but maintaining healthy boundaries is something I've always struggled with. There has been so many times I've been taken advantage of or not understood someone's true intentions in friendships. Once again, ADHD coach and entrepreneur Shane Thrapp walks us through the basis of friendships when you're neurodivergent and gives us some food for thought. I feel like friendship, and I know you mentioned that before as well about some of your friends saying, oh, you've not been in touch in a while. And I think that's a real big one because I've realized that I think up until I was in my 30s, a lot of my friendships were all one-sided on my end. Because obviously, as ADHDs, we do like to people please to a certain extent. So I feel like I was giving like 80% to some friendships. Some people were giving like 20%. It wasn't until I got to my 30s, I'm like, no, I deserve more than this. I'm going to pull myself back. And that's when you find out who the real friends are. Do you think that in terms of friendships, we sometimes do get taken advantage of by people because we do like to people please, or?
I think there is a couple of different things here. Mm-hmm. Please, audience, do not crucify me for this. I think there's a combination. Mm-hmm. There is an unrealistic expectation on our parts about what a friend is supposed to be.
Yes.
Because we are people pleasers and we often are ride or die friends.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you need to help hide a body? Moral implications aside, let's go. Obviously, I believe that you did this for a reason. Let's go. We're that friend, y'all. I got 40 acres somewhere. Let me know. But I'm just joking, FBI. No, but at the same time, we don't have a good understanding, and we're very rarely not taught as children on how to make friends, because we're put into situations where we forced to make friends. We're put into a school, right? We're put into this very structured environment, surrounded by all these kids, and there's some natural growth of friendships within that realm for the most part. And cliques form. They naturally form. So you do develop friendships. And if you happen to be the outsider of your group, even if you do have those friends, this is what you think friendship is supposed to be. And we grow up with this concept that, oh, I do have to give a lot of myself in a friendship. And we take that into our adulthood. I have to give a lot of my time to this relationship because that's what we're taught that we had to do through the social environment that we grew up in. And so we don't have a good understanding of what it means to be friends. And then as we get older, we start to develop a better understanding through personal growth or watching it on TV. Man, it seems like those friends give a lot more to each other back and forth. I've been giving myself so much to this person, and they're not really giving me that thing back. And so then we fall into the other side of the coin. A, people pleasing, but B, we don't set boundaries. We also don't set expectations.
And that's a big one, isn't it?
We don't communicate things effectively because we may be friends with neurotypical people who don't speak the same language that we do, or they don't speak in the same way that we do. So it gets a little frustrating. And then when you talk about the impulsivity issues and emotional dysregulation and the shame and fear and guilt, I'm afraid to stand up for myself because if I stand up for myself, they'll just leave me alone. And on top of that, many of us have left school, so we're no longer in that social bubble that we had. We're out in the wild, and we don't know how to make friends when we're not forced into that situation. Right? School forces us into a social bubble. And then, of course, a lot of fear and a lot of guilt and a lot of shame causes us to isolate, and we lose the muscles. Like I said earlier, we lose the muscles of communication and how to make friends. And so when we are dealing with trying to make sure that we understand that, yes, we are likely going to be taking advantage of a lot of relationships because we don't know enough about how relationships should look at it first. And we develop a fear of setting any serious boundaries in place. And when you start to learn those things, especially working with therapists or coaches to develop relationships, that's where we go. We go back to making sure that we make sure that there's an understanding of what is a boundary.
Yeah.
Right? How do we set boundaries? What are expectations that we should put in place? How do we communicate effectively if people speak a different language than we do?
Yeah. It's
Right?
all about deconstructing, isn't it? Deconstructing. Why do you think like this? What's happened to make you think like this? And how can you do it differently? How can you look at yourself differently? It's almost like deconstructing trauma, isn't it? Like the trauma that is like a bystander of having ADHD being different.
Right. Like 80% of people with ADHD have some sort of PTSD or complex PTSD. And the same thing for autistic people, because we grow up in a very negative environment most often. And the thing that we have to start really understanding, and this is why therapy is so crucial to the overall management of ADHD. And I tell many of my clients, look, you'll be in therapy for the rest of your life, you know, because you've got to deconstruct 20, 30, 40 years of trauma.
Yeah.
And our brains, the way that our brains work is not conducive to talk therapy, where you go in and you talk about the problems that you're dealing with, because A, we're not very introspective. B, our memory is very wonky.
Yeah.
So for people with ADHD, there's a problem there. So when we talk about neurotypical people, they see time in a linear fashion, A, B, C, past, present, future. We see time as this wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey ball of bullshit. It doesn't really exist in the same way for other people.
Yeah.
And this isn't even a matter of, oh, I'm just forgetting in late. Oh my gosh. It is time literally didn't do what it was supposed to do, apparently. Because like I looked at the clock, I got 15 minutes. Oh, I've got plenty of time to do this Word document real quick. And then, oh, I'm 45 minutes late now. Holy crap, what just happened? I only did a paragraph.
Yeah, it's like you're describing my life.
And I think that's the thing that people need to understand. The thing is, like, neurotypical people see time in this linear fashion, A, B, C, present, future. Whereas people with ADHD see time as this like wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey BS. And this causes a lot of issues for us. We go to get ready to go somewhere and we look at the clock and we go, oh, I've got 15 minutes. Let me go ahead and work on this Word document. And then we start working on the Word document and we look back at the clock after we get finished and it's like 45 minutes late.
Yeah.
Oh no, my God. And it's not like we want to be late or anything like that. It's just time just didn't do what it was supposed to do there.
No, exactly.
Now, this is relevant to therapy in a really interesting way, because what happens when you go talk to a psychotherapist who's doing talk therapy? How's your week been? My week has been great. Nothing's really crazy has happened. We ignore the fact that 2 weeks ago we had emotional dysregulation breakdown because our wife said, hey, can you do the dishes? And that triggered a trauma memory from when our abusive ex-wife said the same thing in the same way. And I had a meltdown in the middle of the kitchen, but she only asked me how my last week has been.
Yeah. Wow.
And it takes so much time for a therapist to really try to dig out trauma by asking us questions to talk about our childhood. Let's not even get into the whole repression of memory that some of us have. And that's a whole another side of the coin. But a lot of times memories for us are based on triggers.
Yeah.
A thing has to happen that has some sort of emotional connection or sensory connection that we made at that point of the trauma that will trigger the memory. Think of every time you smell delicious cookies and you think about your grandmother's baking and you're instantly transported to the one time when you were 9 years old and y'all were in the kitchen and she was making that same batch of cookies and you remember the smells and the joy and the laughter and the happiness. For us, that's a visceral reaction. People who are neurotypical often aren't transported so seriously. I remember cooking cookies with my grandma, but There's nothing like specifically. We literally go into that place.
You go on a deep dive.
And of course, if we happen to have that imagination side of things, it can get really hardcore.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens when we experience trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we have a trauma episode, it's very much like a PTSD, back in that moment, visceral. I am there experiencing it again. And so sometimes it can be these really low level issues. And talk therapy just is not sufficient with somebody who's going through ADHD and has a trauma background, because we're not going to be able to have that conversation. And there's no expectations often set by many therapists in a realistic timeline of how long it's going to take to dig this stuff out.
Yeah.
Because they don't know. It's very hard to gauge.
And all these things like have a massive impact on not only your relationships that you're in, but the ability to form relationships. Because there's all sorts of this stuff about trauma and the ability to form relationships. When you add ADHD or something like autism on top of that, like I said, it's a wonder we're able to maintain any kind of relationships, because it's just so difficult in a sense.
Yeah, because think about, this is definitely my autistic side coming out. Somebody uses some sort of facetiousness or sarcasm around me.
Yeah.
And I just take the literal terms of the words that they absolutely just used as they're said without recognizing the tone. This is especially the case over the phone or through text. Like, it's really hard for us to naturally gather tone whenever we don't have some sort of body visual cue to be able to see, especially if we have built our understanding of emotional around body cues.
Yeah.
It's even worse for people who are autistic who never had that basic understanding or developed that basic understanding. They don't see the body cues. They don't understand the tone. They don't recognize you're joking. And that's very difficult to be friends with for a lot of people out there, especially neurotypical people. And a lot of times what we have to really start to understand when we're working with therapists is, you know, getting a better understanding of why this is one of those reasons why journaling is so important. Journaling is really important for our relationships too, right? When our spouse or friends ask us to do something, putting it in our journal, writing it down.
Oh my gosh, I rely so much on Google Calendar.
Like putting it on your Google Calendar, putting it on a task notes. I literally have a task notes to read the notes that you sent me for this podcast.
Oh, wow.
That had to go off. Yeah, that had to go off yesterday and today.
Wow.
So that I would read the notes that you sent me, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to do it when you first sent them out.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with friendships. I have alarms set on my Siri, on my Alexa, to message my friends on a regular basis.
Wow.
And she pops up, hey, Shane, make sure to message David and check in on him.
That's such a good idea. I might have to take that tip.
No, and this is what I mean about whenever we're working with clients who have ADHD, like we have to have those external things. There are no internal tools. You might as well just scrap any concepts of internal tools for managing ADHD. You need to lean on external stuff that will break you out of whatever you're in to be able to manage things. And this includes relationships.
Wow.
Your partner needs you to do something, then you need to externalize that thing that they need you to do and put it somewhere. And then I have an alarm that goes off every morning and every evening that tells me to look at my tasks in my calendar for the day of and the day after or the day before. I have to have that stuff.
Wow.
Because if I don't, then I'm not going to look at my task list or look at my email list.
I'm gonna be talking to my Alexa so much after this podcast recording.
It literally is a lifesaver, right? And I'll give you a prime example. My wife has I'm a stay-at-home father. My wife has things that she would really love it if I would do on a regular basis. I don't want her to have to come after me every now and then. Alexa goes off. Hey, Shane, it's 2:00. It's time to vacuum. I can yell at Alexa and tell her to shut the fuck up. Yeah. If I said that to my wife, y'all would see me on this new TV show that comes out in 10 years about where'd the wife hide the body? crime dramas, right? And I think that's the key. And it's the same thing for therapy. Is you have to understand that when you have that triggered episode, when you have that emotional dysregulation moment, when you have those feelings of shame and guilt and frustration and fear, you've got to put them on some sort of externalized system, whether that's a notebook, an anxiety book, a journal, Google Notes, Google Docs, whatever it is, and send it to your therapist.
Yeah.
And
good idea.
That's the only way talk therapy will work for people with ADHD.
Yeah.
Guess what? Not many people are willing to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
When we talk about therapy for ADHD, we have to be very serious in understanding that things like cognitive behavioral therapy and acceptance and commitment therapy and dialectical behavioral therapy and EMDR trauma therapy, these are things that work for the people with ADHD because they're not worried about really digging into your past to figure out. They're really focusing on the behaviors that you have now and the issues that you have now, because then when they start digging into those behaviors that you have now and those issues that you're having now, they will start triggering trauma episodes that then the therapist can start to drill down into as they discover along the way. And those are much more effective ways of managing ADHD through therapy. This is how we develop a better understanding of ourselves. This is how we develop a better, emotionally more positive outlook on life. And it makes it much more easier for us to develop relationships when we're in that realm.
Well, there we are. I think the key to all this seems to be communication and respect. Unless you respect yourself, you're never going to be able to tell people what it is you need, want, or deserve. The key way for us to gain self-respect is to learn more about how we can help ourselves through a journey of self-discovery, which all begins with the following affirmation. I struggle with ADHD, but I love myself enough to find out what it is I need and what I need from other people. I think that's a good foundation for any friendship. If you've enjoyed today's discussion, don't forget that it doesn't end there. Join us next week in part 3, when we'll be talking about romance when you're neurodivergent and how having neurodivergent children may affect your relationship with them. Until then, take care, ADHDers and allies, and remember, whatever kind of brain you have, you're worthy of the support you need.